Hi, this is Pete Ekman with the RoboZone podcast. This is episode 227 if I have my episode number right, but I know what week it is. We're going into week 3. Okay? This is the third competitive week of Reefscape. Now, thank God we're done with builds, but is building ever done? I don't think so. So we'll get to introductions. Michael, you go first.
Hi, I'm Michael Chiarini. I am a senior at Brother Rice, and I am a leader on the Mech Warriors.
Okay? Allie, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Allie Bailey. I am a junior at Marion, and I am the lead of the electrical sub team.
We have Maddie next.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I am a senior on the Mech Warriors, and I am the system sub-team lead.
And not least, Lisa.
Yep. My name is Lisa Savage. I am the head coach of the Mech Warriors. I've been the head coach since 2015 and have been mentoring teams since 2006.
Not only that, Lisa, you're cutting yourself short. You do a lot of
And I am a
volunteering
team.
outside.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. So I am the lead event coordinator for First in Michigan FRC. And also I am an alumna of 573.
So, you have multiple hats. You're always busy, kind of like Ben Shoemaker, who's always driving fields from one place to another. We can't thank you guys enough for what you do because without you guys, we wouldn't even be doing this stuff
Yeah,
because
I love to do it.
it takes a lot to do it. So we thank you. Okay, guys, we've been through 2 weeks of Reefscape now. Let's go all the way back. We'll go all the way back to kickoff, which was like 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago at this time. All these weeks meshed together. Michael, tell us what kickoff was like.
Kickoff was, well, first, I'd say it's a lot of fun. Our team likes to get together to watch kickoff, and this year we got the chance to go to a theater that was sponsored by LTU to watch the kickoff with some other teams. And it was fun to see the game and get excited when it was finally being revealed. And I was very excited when I saw the game. I thought this game was very unique for what I've seen. And I knew it'd be a lot of fun for us to work on a robot this season for it.
Allie, how did you like kickoff? I mean, you guys are my third of my 4 teams I'm interviewing. Everyone said they loved the popcorn and the goodies. What was your favorite part of kickoff?
Yeah, even like going back, I did an interview right after the kickoff, and you can just like see the excitement on my face. I loved the kickoff. It was amazing. Being able to like go to a theater and like see it on like that really big screen was super cool. And obviously the stacks are amazing. But I agree with what Michael said. It's a very creative game this year. There were a lot of elements. And I've seen a lot more teams like specializing in certain areas this year, as opposed to in the past where you have a lot of robots that can complete every single aspect of the game. So, yeah.
Yep, we're gonna dig all into that. I got you guys for at least half an hour. We're gonna dig into Reefscape, dig into your robot, what you guys do, all that stuff. Maddie, is there anything we've left off about kickoff? What was it like? Seeing it on a big screen. I think all the teams need to do that next year. I think it enhanced kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, the energy was incredible there. It's always great getting together with teams, even though we couldn't go directly to LTU this year. It was still great to be with all the people from there who have always been so welcoming to us. So it was a great experience.
And Lisa, this year I'm going to change the question on you because they've already answered. What was it like I know LTU sponsors you. This is your third year being sponsored by LTU. Is that correct?
Think third or fourth.
We'll go with 4 because it always
Yeah.
sounds better. So, what is it like being sponsored by LTU? I'll throw that one at you.
I absolutely just love the partnership. I love the fact that LTU has been so gracious in allowing us to come onto campus, take some tours to the labs to really give the students the opportunity to see like all the different types of projects that the LTU students are working on. In the past, we've also gotten the chance to use the machine shop to be able to water jet and CNC some of our parts. So the partnership has always just been so amazing.
It's like having your own machine shop in the backyard. You can just visit it
Yeah,
anytime you want.
exactly. Not
I'm
so far
jealous.
away.
Yeah, it's really far away from me. I'm trying to get them to sponsor my team. I do RoboZone. I'm like, come on, guys, I cover you guys, but we're 2.5 hours away, so that'd be a jaunt for us.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Okay, let's talk about Rescape. Okay, Michael, what's your favorite thing about Rescape so far?
Do you mean the game or just everything this season so far?
Your choice.
I would say my favorite part about the game this year is the unique ways you can score. I mean, getting to score with a large piece of PVC and a sort of a gym ball and being able to climb on a very unique um, cage where you have to work a lot with like physics to do that. And there were a lot of different approaches I've seen, and I really like the approach we took as a team. And allowing us to these unique um, scoring pieces kind of allowed us to use a lot of our ideas we've accumulated throughout the years with previous robots and like robots in our Okra seasons to really succeed this season with trying to implement all these game pieces into our robot. I just thought it was really unique.
So it's fun until a piece of coral gets stuck in your robot, and we'll talk about that later. Allie, what do you like about the Rescape season so far?
My favorite part is definitely like seeing the different types of climbers the teams have come up with. In 2023, you would just like drive up a ramp. So besides like citrus circuits, you didn't really see much variation there. And then last year, most people did like a hook onto the chain, but this year you see claws, you see what we have, a reaction bar. There's just like so many opportunities, and it's always fun like going around and seeing like what different teams have. And especially with like the two different levels, it's just really interesting.
Now, me and Lisa have been around the block when it comes to mentoring in past seasons, but if you guys want to really see some fun, go back and look at Steamworks where we had to crawl up a pole or a piece of rope. That was not
Yeah.
fun. Not fun at all. Velcro was your best friend that year. Maddie, what do you like about Reefscape so far?
I think definitely the strategy this year has been really interesting for me to see. I work on strategy as our drive coach, and it's interesting having to work with different teams who, like it was mentioned before, how some teams have specialized in like just scoring one game piece and having to dictate like what side of the reef we're scoring on. Some teams can't score on certain levels and pick up from certain places. So it's really interesting to have to like make those decisions, especially with like processor scoring, teams that can only score there, but then it's like doesn't really give as many net like points in the end. And it's just I found that to be really interesting this year since with multiple game pieces and more ranking points and everything. So yeah.
Like you, I'm a fellow drive coach. It has been a nightmare and a dream. It depends on what
Mhm.
match you're in and who your alliance
Right.
partners are with. We'll talk about more like that. Lisa, what is your favorite part of Rescape so far?
I'm going to take a different approach for my students. I absolutely love the conceptualization portion of our season and seeing all the ideas come out. And I feel like this year has been really cool to just watch how my students are approaching the game and watch how many ideas they're coming up with. We had to do quite a bit of down selection this year just because of how many ideas were coming out for the coral and the algae and the climbing and everything. So that was really cool to see.
I agree with you, Lisa. There's so many. This is one of those years where, like last year, everyone kind of shot the notes the same way. They had the wheels on the top and bottom or on the sides. That was pretty much your
Mhm.
delivery. This year's, I've seen claws, right? I've seen intakes that kind of just like grab that algae ball and compress it to almost popping itself. I haven't seen one popped with a device yet. We've seen them rolled over and popped. There's always that fun getting beached, as they're calling it. But yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of creativity, and that's what First is all about. Is you don't want the same thing every year, right? That's when we explain as mentors what we do. It takes an hour or two to explain it. You can't do like an elevator pitch. You got to do like an elevator 15 minutes. So yeah, I agree with you. The creativity has been amazing. So you guys competed. Allie, I'm going to go to you. Where did you guys compete week one?
Kettering. We were at Kettering.
Okay, and how did you do?
We did pretty well. We were captain of Alliance 5 and we won the Impact Award, which was like absolutely
Congratulations.
amazing. Thank you so much. Me and Maddie were both on Impact team. Obviously, everyone on our team contributes to it, but it was just a special experience, especially because we've never won it before. But yeah, just coming home with a blue banner was amazing. So
It's the best feeling. It's the best feeling.
mhm.
Everyone joked with me the first year, the first one I got, they said, "Are you gonna use it as a blanket?" I did not. That was before the banners changed, by the way. That's when they were the
Yeah.
thicker material and that
Mhm.
type of stuff. You can really can't use the new ones for blankets; they're too thin. We won't go
Yeah.
there. That's another podcast for an hour and a half. Maddie, as a drive coach, what did you see? What did you see through the path that is your first event as a drive coach?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of exposed like some of the choices that teams had just kind of overall all settled on. Like we saw very few shallow climbs. Actually, I don't really remember having any partners who shallow climbed. Everyone either didn't have a climb or climbed deep, like we did. There are also a lot of rookie teams at our event. There's a lot more rookie teams this year. So it's really interesting to see like what they kind of down selected on, with some of them just using the kit bot, or some of the teams that we worked with were just algae bots. But it was kind of like we were getting a completely different robot with every match, kind of like the others talked about, especially with like some teams, even like Strike Zone, who were the captain of Alliance One at Kettering. They, when we had a match with them, they can't do level 2 very well. So we had to work around like, okay, even though they're the best scorers, like we still want to get this ranking point. So somebody else has to just do level 2 and get that level first, because some robots have, slightly better scoring on slightly different levels. And organizing human player stations, that was something I was really excited about this year, was having a human player station on your alliance side. But then there's also strategically having the human player not be a safe zone this year was really interesting for me, because defense, while you can only have one defense robot, it was very powerful at the competition, because sometimes there are robots that'll just follow you back and forth between each human player station. It's impossible as a human player loading bot to get a piece. So those are some of my notes from the competition.
So you hit on one of the keys I wanted to talk about tonight, and that's defense. I'm going to say I was at week 2. We were at St. Joe's.
Mhm.
Team Lancebot, good job playing defense. I thought it was last year's BattleBots version. They were hitting us so hard in playoffs. And I
Mhm.
didn't see, no one had played that kind of defense until we went up against them and they were finalists. So good on them because they
Yeah.
were playing lights out defense. Um, and they could score too, but that's what they chose to do. Michael, what did you see in week 1?
So my role in week one, I was our team's technician on our drive team, and I was pit chief. So a lot of what I saw was, um, at least for well, starting with our robot, is a lot of work that went into between the matches, making sure we were ready to go um, into our matches, and making sure the drive team was ready if there were any like big changes we had. And um, we didn't have any major breaks this year, which was a big plus for us.
You better knock
It's
on a piece of wood right now. Knock on a piece of
yeah,
wood.
it's
There we
never
go. There we go.
it's never fun when you gotta take apart your entire end effector because it shatters.
Or when your elevator decides to do this, which ours did. So yeah.
So I also saw a lot of strategizing. I was in the background of a lot of strategizing with our drive team while I was making a few last touch ups on the robot, and hearing all the discussions that went on was very intriguing to me. I got to hear a lot of different aspects of our strategies so that we could succeed in our games. Another thing I saw a lot of was other teams and their pits and how they were working on their robots. We saw a lot of people hard at work, and it's great to see like we're like robotics community is always hardworking and always at work at these competitions, and we it seems like there's no like time for breaks, but it doesn't matter because we're all just locked in on the objective of doing our best at these competitions.
Yep. You have to make sure your drive team drinks water, eats food, and so does your pit crew. It does get
Yep.
hangry because then they can't concentrate. Lisa, I never thought, this is my 10th year doing this. I never thought that I would see a 5 number bumper. How did you guys have a 5 number bumper there?
Mhm.
A 10,000 series team?
Yeah.
We had a
Um,
couple.
yes. Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
it
quite a
weird?
few.
I think
Was
three.
it weird to see a 10,000 series team?
It's just amazing to see. So like I was on the Mech Warriors when like all the three numbers were coming up. So it's been so cool to see like how those numbers have grown and grown across the years. Also
And what
reminds me that I was a student more than 20 years ago now. But it is really great to see the growth in Michigan and also just across the world.
I missed this by 2 years. This sport, and I call it a sport, came out 2 years after I graduated. That's why I love it so much because I always say if I had it, I would have maybe changed my trajectory in life because this is what I would have done as a student. That I was going to, kids aren't going to know I'm talking about Radio Shack and putting things together. Yeah, see, you guys will look it up. It's fine. It's safe on Google. Anyways, Lisa, what did you think about your week 1 event? How did that go?
I thought it was really cool. So kind of touching on the topic of the 5-digit rookie teams, like just seeing the community come together to help them out, to help them through their first event, seeing different teams supporting with those efforts, and not even just the rookies, just supporting each other. There was so much of that, even though I know that maybe like the people were like we were running a little bit behind schedule, but everybody maintained their gracious professionalism. Everybody was really exhibiting those first core values, and just seeing that community is always just such a blessing.
Yeah. I remember going to Kettering for week 1 for Steamworks, and we ran 5 hours behind that day. Nothing gets as bad as that because we didn't. That was a very long weekend. It was all about guys. I don't know if you know what Steamworks was. We had wiffle balls. They went into this shoot, and then they'd have to count, and they wouldn't count correctly. So it took them 4.5 hours, almost 5 hours to get a part FedEx so that we could fix things. And Lisa probably helped with that. So Lisa, if you did that, thank you at Kettering. I'm sure you've made your rounds in that area. So we went to week 2. I heard a lot of things that you guys have echoed. I heard a lot of different end effectors, which I didn't even know the word until this year. I was like, someone said end effector. I'm like, what did you just say? And I've been spending it with an or spelling it with an O, like end O factor, until my co-mentor told me Pete's end factor. Okay, then why everyone saying end effector? It's end factor, end factor. Okay, so that's the joke on me. But a lot of defense, a lot of robots, a lot of LG robots. We didn't have that many rookies where we were. I think we maybe had 5, but a lot of kit bots out there, which is great that first put that stuff out there for kit bots. So you don't, they can do stuff and they were doing stuff. Um, I can't remember, Maddie. I think you said that you had teams that couldn't score on 2, but they could
Mhm.
score like in the trough. That's where we had some those rookie bots were the best at that, right? Because like our robot, when it goes down, it throws it too hard and it come out and then gets caught in. So did you guys have the coral of doom that would get stuck in your robot? Anyone? I see
Yeah,
nodding. How
yeah,
many?
a couple of them, sure, yeah.
Yeah, how many matches did that happen, Maddie?
I it was more than one. I think it was
So
like 2 or
3.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was about 3.
And
Yeah, it was because a lot of times either like something would happen with at the human player station or dropping a coral on level 4 or like you're talking about since our robot um shoots the coral like long ways
Mhm.
we can score an L1 and we did quite a few times but every once in a while it just kind of like doesn't get all the way in and will just fall right back into your robot. So that's one thing that we've been working on for sure.
So, Maddie, how important you as a drive coach, how important was it that your human player and your drive team were in sync?
It vary because I mean it's really um something where all of the drive team has to be communicating there because we have the human player who has to be ready and the driver who has to line up with the human player station and then our Allie who's our operator she has to intake the coral and if our driver like moves aggressively before she intakes the coral then it might not be able to be intaken, and it's just a whole thing where we have to, okay, go to the human player station, the human player puts it in, operator intakes it, and then the driver can go off. So it's really a lot of communication.
It's a concert. It's like we borrowed last year's theme, and we're a concert under the water, like a
Mhm.
symphony, right? Allie, you missed. I didn't pick up that you were the operator, so
Yeah,
I've got all
sorry, I
kinds of
didn't
new
bring that
questions
up.
for you as the operator. My operator gets very nervous, right? This is his first year
Mm.
being an operator. So, what is it like being the operator of your robot?
I've been on drive team since my freshman year. I was human player my freshman year and then also operator again last year. So I'm kind of more used to it now, but I still definitely get nervous. I mean, you can ask Maddie. But I agree with what she was saying earlier about communication because like especially since the drive coach like can't is like stationed behind us because they can't touch the controllers.
Hmm.
Sometimes we'll be like aligning and Maddie will be like, go in, and I'm like, no, there is a coral. Our driver has to move. And she's like, oh, okay. So just yeah, I definitely
Mhm.
still get really nervous before matches sometimes, but it's kind of we just take some deep breaths and we just go with it.
Do you
So
do you
yeah.
guys use a push? Do you guys use a controller for the operator? You guys use a
Yeah.
push
We
button?
use controllers.
Okay. This
Mhm.
is our, I challenged my team. I threw a lot at him this year, and my co-mentor. And I said, we should do a button board because I found, at least with this operator last year, when he was learning how to do operation, he wasn't an operator last year. He was having problems knowing which one to do. So we made a nice button board. It's really wide. It's the top of our driver station and it lights up. So when he hits it, he knows he's hit it. So it really
Hmm.
helped him this year. And they spoke a lot about it with the judges, which was great. It gave them a lot of things to talk about. So I've seen everything in 10 years. I've seen um, guitars. What's the team that played Flying Toasters? They do use a guitar. If you guys haven't seen it, it's wild. You'll see it
That's
at
funny.
States. Yeah, they have a guitar. I don't know how they're doing that, but they're doing it. Like a Guitar Hero guitar controller, which is kind of cool.
It is really cool.
Mhm.
Michael, what you said you didn't have to repair the robot once? Knock on the
I
wood
didn't
again.
I didn't say that. No. Obviously there was a lot of repairs we had to make and a lot of like adjustments we had to make during the game. But I meant was no like major breaks.
Okay.
Last year, like I mentioned, we had to replace our entire end effector because we had crashed and it had shattered because it was made of Lexan, and that was a huge pain with a very short turnaround. So we had all hands on the robot. But this year we had to play, or at their most recent competition, we had to play a lot with weight. We had went to the competition with we were a little bit over, and then we ended up being exactly what the weight limit was, 115 for a robot.
Nice.
And it was a struggle because our climber is a reaction bar and it is very dependent on weight allocations. So if it's not distributed evenly on both sides of the robot, it'll tend to swing more
Hmm.
and tilt more in one area, and then we might touch the ground. So it was a lot of playing with that and trying to like, oh, we gotta cut down on this part of the robot so that we can add in more ballast here. And then we also decided to add on more stuff like another camera for our climber so that our driver could see the cage when
Okay.
lining up to climb. And then it was like, okay, we got to we got to take some of our motor covers off to get the weight necessary to actually pull this off. And that was probably the trickiest part with working on the robot at Kettering.
Okay. So first of all, knock on the wood again because you don't want to curse your team. There you go. So Lisa feels okay. Um, I got a text from one of my buddies, because all of us mentors are buddies and we start texting each other, right? At comp especially. And one of the old teams that I knew from my local area where I used to coach showed up with a robot at 125 pounds. They forgot to read that changed this year. I still haven't found out what it went to, but they showed up 125 pounds. And I definitely don't want to be that. We're at 107 on the nose, so it was nice. Lisa, what other things did you see or did you get caught off guard at your first comp? Like at ours, even at week two, there are very low amount of teams that could climb. That was the one thing I thought was odd. What did you see?
I'm going to be quite honest. So I'm the pit mentor when we go to competitions. So I tend to stay in the pits and like get everything ready to go for the next match. So I didn't get to catch as many matches.
Okay.
Um, but I guess in terms of catching off guard, I mean, I think I just want to echo the climbing aspect, right? How many we're doing the low or the shallow versus the deep climbs. I think
We
that's a
didn't
big one from the matches that I did watch.
we didn't even have a lot of shallows. I mean, it was well, I'm guilty of it. Our robot was not ready for our climber because we have a very unique way we're bringing in the coral, and we have like a V system. We had to cut a notch for the in the top of it so that the chain could go through because there's a chain on the top of
Mhm.
that cage. And when you pulled it in, it would touch the chain, which would negate you climbing. So we didn't do it. So any of our alliance partners says, "Are you going to climb?" I said, "Nope." I said, "We can score more because we could do L4 down the trough, the trough. We could put more points up by continuing to score than it would be for us to climb." So that's how we approach that first event, and it's always that way. In week ones and twos, you're not a 3 and 5. You have less time to build, so you want to try to do what you can do. And I think Maddie touched on it, where there were robots that could only do one thing. We wanted to do three things, right? We wanted to score on all the things. We wanted intake really well, and then we wanted to be fast, of course, and then do LG too. So we can do LG and Coral in our same end effector. So that's
Yeah.
what we chose to do. Week
And I think
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I underestimated the amount of defense that would be played week one,
Mhm.
too. I knew some amount was going to be played. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as much as it was.
And smart defense. There was a lot of
Hmm.
smart defense. And as drive coaches, we help, right? Maddie, did you tell other alliance partners, if you guys are going to play defense, stick in front of the coral
Yeah.
station and just sit there?
Yeah, we had like multiple times where teams would get playing pieces stuck in their robots or an appendage would break. And like ahead of time, actually, I think it was our last eliminations match. I think we had a piece stuck in us and I had to tell my driver to just go sit in the opposing alliance captain, who I think was Team 70, the more
More Martians.
Martians. Yeah.
Yep.
And I had told everyone before the match, if something happens to your robot, find their human player station and sit in it. And it happened to be us that had to do that. So that was just the best we could do. But team 2145, the hazmats, I'm pretty sure, they were playing incredible defense when they had issues with their robot at one point and game pieces stuck at one point, and they were really, really good at it and very, very annoying. So
Yes, annoying is good because you throw the
annoying,
other team
annoying in
off.
a good way. They
Yes,
were very
annoying in a good way.
successful.
In a very gracious,
Yes.
professionalistic way. Okay, Allie, we've talked about your first event. Now let's talk about what you're changing for your second. So what do you got? First of all, where are you guys going for your second event?
We are going to Troy week 4.
Oh, that's a good one. That's
Yeah.
like many states. I've heard that a lot about a lot of comps this year, like many states. I know like Saline is going to be like that. The West Coast one's going to be like
Mhm.
that. Um, what are you guys getting ready to do, or what improvements have you made?
So I know that we are working a lot on our autonomous modes and our auto alignment because those were really big fa f fallings of ours at our first competition. We really only had one very consistent auto, but um it's really hard for us with the amount of we have like an eighth of a field, so we really try to do our best with the amount of field space that we have. Um, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe we're also working on improving our climber and making it so it's not so finicky to line up. But yeah, just Michael, you can let me know if I'm forgetting anything.
Um, yeah, so we are adjusting our climber. Since the our first competition, we saw a lot of struggles with actually climbing. I feel we could have used more practice with it because it needed to be so specifically done. So what we've done now is try to make it a bit easier for our driver to um, climb without like having to do it in such a certain way. And we've also reduced our distance between our bars that actually react with the cage. So it shorter distance. The shorter distance allows us to climb higher and allow for, I guess, greater rooms of error if we end up tipping one way or another with our robot, so that we can actually get our climbing point. Another thing we've been working on to implement is a different like adjustments to our braking system for that climber. We went into our first competition. We have these 3D printed brakes, ratcheting brakes that lock into our gearboxes to brake our climber. But we saw some struggles with um, recently at one of our meetings where the ratchet gears broke.
Hmm.
And so we are trying to look into a more reliable solution. And a third thing I want to touch on is we've adjusted our elevator and end effector. So we've replaced our end effector with our new and improved one with so our jaw that we have, so that intake the algae, it has a hard stop, so it won't fling open now, and also has some grip tape to hold the ball better, as well as we are looking into adding a like I guess an expanding screen from our elevator to keep coral from getting in our robot again at Troy, because we that was a big problem for some of our most important matches.
What? Wait, coral gets stuck in robots? I'm just joking. When we had it happen to us twice. Oh, I take that back, 3 times, right? And it didn't come out. So we played defense, right? And not broke anything. But my build mentor who was there said, I'm just gonna go get one of those um sunshade things that they use for kids in the back seat, and we'll just strap it to the bottom of the elevator and it just goes up and down like
Exactly.
this. And I said,
Yep.
that's interesting. Is that I joked with him. I said, "Is that going to throw off our elevator because we look at the ticks as the motors go up and down to know where we are in position? Is that going to throw it off? Is there extra resistance?" And I threw a good one at him when I said that. He didn't think about that, so he's still working on it right now. So
Yeah, we're gonna be playing around with our screen. We're thinking about a similar one as well. We just received it today, so we'll see how the torsion spring in that is, how strong that is.
Amazon, was it an
Yep.
Amazon purchase?
Yep.
It's amazing what you can find on Amazon and what's on robots. We
Indeed.
should do a survey. How many Amazon parts are on your robot? I'm not going to answer that question.
Yeah.
But all good things. I mean, that's the big thing, is moving from your first event to your fourth event. Or I'm sorry, from because you guys 1 and 4, I got the events, but your first event to your second event, and then getting ready, right? And then hoping for as many district points as possible so that we can qualify here at FIM, because people outside of FIM don't realize it's really hard to get in. It's really hard to get in the States. There's only 160 spots and we have 583 teams. So that's it's a first world problem in Michigan. And everyone goes, yeah, that Michigan district. Maddie, what are you guys preparing for? So we talked about robots as far as, you know, improving autons, end effectors, making sure coral can get stuck in. Those are learning lessons that you learned from your first event. You as a drive coach, what are you concentrating on? Because like you, I'm also the strategy guy. So I do strategy and because they tie together, right? So what are you looking at that from that perspective?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of pre-scouting. We like keep up with information on all of the other teams as they compete, especially now that we're seeing more teams competing. Obviously, it's hard going into a week one because you really have no clue what you're going to see when you show up. But by the time we get to Troy, most of the teams that we're with will have competed already. So we are watching matches and finding photos of all the other teams' robots so that we can kind of get an idea of what these teams will be able to do. Also, just kind of keeping up with like all of our testing to see like what we'll be able to contribute, because while we're not changing any of the like overall capabilities of our robot, we are improving how well we're able to do the things that we can do. which means that it'll be much easier for us to get the reef ranking point and the bar drinking point, since the reef ranking point has definitely, as I've seen, been the hardest for teams to
Mhm.
get because you need robots that can score on a variety of levels and to do it quickly, especially if you don't have cooperation, which a lot of alliances can't get cooperation because there's not as many LG bots. Um, but yeah, just right now we're just working on pre-scouting, and just keeping up with all the competition, which we all love to watch all of the competition. So it's kind of fun to, send messages about, ooh, look at what this team did. Look at what happened in this alliance. Look at this high score. Although Israel's setting all the high scores right now, so want Michigan to get in there.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. Don't worry, we'll get there. But like you, because you guys we did week 2, you guys week 1. I actually watched your comp from
Mhm.
house. I had the TV going and I was watching and I was trying to figure out what the pass, least path of resistance, where defense was going. I don't get a lot of sleep during robotics season. Um, and I probably bore my wife to death with matches, but she knows I want to do it, so
Mhm.
she helps. She's very good. She supports me very well. Um, let's see, Lisa, what are you doing to prepare for your second event as one
Yeah.
of the head mentor for your team?
Yeah, so I guess some of the other robot improvements that we're doing that the students didn't really touch on or are include the sensorics. So we've been looking at how do we make it such that we have a better idea of what playing pieces are in our robot, when, how, what are we doing to make better indicators to the drivers so that they know what the state of the robot is, things like that. We actually added a 5th camera onto our robot today to be able to do some better understanding of where we are in the field. We changed the location of one of our light gates so that we can intake the coral properly, things like that. So from a sensoric standpoint, we're absolutely working on really doing that fine tuning. Another thing that we're going to be looking at is like what can we do to be even more efficient at what we do, as Maddie had mentioned. So even things like, hey, how can we push our acceleration up just a tiny bit more so that we're getting from point A to B a lot faster? Um, and then in terms of a broader team standpoint, really just continuing to try to get more of our newer students involved. I know my seniors go a little bit nuts when I say, hey, I don't want you guys doing this. I want one of the newer students doing this. So teach them along the way. And that's really the approach that we take throughout the entire season, but continuing to encourage that and continuing to get the newer kids more involved.
I want to know how you put 5 cameras on a robot. I've never heard of 5. I've heard of 3, like 5460, right? You guys talk
Mhm.
Strike Zone always has like 3 limelights, right? They're really good at, how do you fit 5? Wait, we only have a certain amount of bandwidth on our robots. How are you pushing 5 cameras?
So we're actually using a different camera this year. So we have used the limelights in the past. This year we are using Arducams. So
Okay.
2 of them go direct to the RIA. We're not using those for any of our like localization type activities. They're
Okay.
more to help our drivers out. But then 3 of them are used for doing things like auto alignment and understanding where we are in the field. And so we use that with photon vision to be able to do that.
Interesting. So we have a little a notation or a kudos to PhotoVision out there. I played with that last year. It's pretty interesting stuff. I've never heard of 5.5. I think that's a record, Lisa. You guys have the record for having the most cameras on a robot. So I want to see the footage of that. I want to see how can the driver's not here, right? So how can the driver how can the driver pay attention to 5 cameras? I guess they're only looking at 2 and
Well,
the other ones
so yeah,
Yeah.
it's for particular use cases too. So for example, like one of them is for climbing. So that
okay.
helps with our adjustments for climbing. And then one of them is for any manual scoring that we're doing. So we
Okay.
can see like where exactly the reef is relative to where our claw is. We do have set points for our claw, but in case we need to do a little bit more fine tuning because maybe we're like just the slightest bit off, we can use the camera to make sure that we get the reef right where we need it to be.
Yeah, we're
Awesome.
usually only using the cameras in like specific instances, like coaches said, and a lot of times it's me looking at them and the driver and operator looking at the robot. Like we only really use them if we're scoring or if we're climbing. Every other time we use our auto alignment and it works great.
Okay, that's cool. If you guys have it posted on YouTube, please give me the link. I will put it in the show notes because I want to know what it looks like.
Yeah,
Or
sure
I'll go
thing.
back and watch Kettering again. But they don't focus on a robot when they're doing it.
So we only had three going into Kettering, and then we
Oh,
actually increased to four during the course of the event. And then we decided that we wanted a fifth one,
okay.
literally today. So
Okay. Future goals. Future goals. Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. I can't wait to see the implementation of that at Troy then. Um, I was trying to think of a hard question for you guys, but I think we've covered so much as it is when we do these things that is there anything any can the students think of anything that you've seen at either during the season or at the comp that you say, huh, we didn't think of that. Like Coral Good being stuck in a robot. It's not something we really thought of until it happens, right? So is there anything, students, that you can think of that kind of just caught you off guard? It's a good question.
Seeing
See, I got a good one.
seeing Strike Zone have a Subway Surfers video playing at their
Yeah,
driver station was interesting.
that was definitely fun.
Yeah.
Interesting. I know the head coach there, so I have to ping him after this and say, hey, you have Subway Surfer running in your driver station?
Yeah.
Anything else, Maddie, Michael, that you can think of?
One thing I saw from a few teams was um, I'm newer to the team than Allie and Maddie and some other veterans. This is my second year, but some things I saw were, and I got to talk with some teams about this, was you mentioned the button boards for their driver stations, and I saw a lot of flight controllers. So those joysticks, I thought those were really unique and pretty cool. And one of these teams I was talking to, they were talking about how like they have 100 different functions they can access with it, and I was like, wow. And apparently, according to them, they're better for swerve drive, which is something we like to use a lot for our first seasons. And I was like, wow, that would have been really cool to try and implement. I think that would have been a lot of fun for our drive team to look at.
My driver wants to do that. She said at the event, she said, "Hey, coach, I want to try a flight stick." And I'm like, you realize you play video games a lot. To go from this to this is a big difference, and we're not doing it in the season. We'll do it outside the season for your senior year. Never change anything. That kids love to throw stuff at me. Hey, coach, can we do this? Not while we're here. We can do it when we get back to the build shop and we can practice, not at a comp.
I'm
Especially my
chuckling at
coders.
I'm chuckling at this conversation because it seems like it's coming full circle. Like the joysticks were what I used when I was a student, and then they like slowly made the transition to the game pads.
Yes,
But it sounds like there's maybe another shift.
it may be. I'd like to see it. I want to try it. I want to see
Yeah.
if it works. I can see. I mean, I've I've done flight simulations with those things, so I can see how it would work.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll talk to Corey Walters tomorrow night. He's from Strike Force. He's like the Grand Poobah, and he's gonna laugh when he sees this. The Grand Poobah of Swerve, right? They made Swerve cool. I don't know. He'll
Um,
like it.
I just want to touch on something
Sure.
that Coach Lisa said earlier about just like the community. Just it was just like so amazing, especially at this event. Like I had a friend, Maddie knows them too, but I had a
Mhm.
friend on Rush, and when we came out of our impact room, like their team was practicing, and I remember like when they were announcing that we were winning impact, like saying all this stuff about our team. I remember like seeing him because they had just won an award because they were finalists. I'm seeing him and he was nodding at us and like because we won it, and it's just like a really great environment. And I always, ever since freshman year, I set a goal for myself to make one new friend at every event, and it's just led to me having so many friends from like across the state of Michigan and like around the world. Like me and Maddie at at Worlds my freshman year, like me and Maddie made friends with this guy in the pits that's next to us from Arizona. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just like a really great community experience.
Yes, that's what first is all about because you guys build the relationships at first that you guys can take off and go to college, and then you have your own built-in network. You'll always have a job as long as you stick with the people that you did first with. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about, right? Even as mentors, we stick together. So that's huge. I'm glad you saw that,
Mhm.
Allie. Saw a lot of that at our event too. A lot of teams helping teams, and it's always that. Do you need help? Do you need this?
Mhm.
Do you need that? Mentoring. I was mentoring another team because that was the first time they had a very young drive coach who was a student, had never done it. And I was saying, this is okay, this is how you look at this, this is how you look at this. They picked us for playoffs because they ranked higher than we are. And they picked us because they were comfortable. They knew who we were and we were nice and we wanted to help. That's what it's all about. It's not necessarily about winning banners unless you're winning impact. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
We're not there
Thank
yet,
you.
but that's huge, right? That's the biggest award at an event. It's
Mhm.
better than winning the event unless you're really competitive, like some
Yeah.
people. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Um,
but as I always tell my students too, it's not about the award. It's always about doing something with the gifts that you've been given through first and making an
yes.
impact on the world, making sure that you are helping bring other people up. So
Yeah. Or working on autonomous vehicles or doing something electrical, improving the world.
Mhm.
We'll see what you guys can do. No pressure.
Yeah, like I'm sure that like in like 20 years I'll probably remember like playing card games at Relay for Life over like actually like winning the award. So it's just like I agree with what Coach Lisa said 100%.
Yep. Okay, we've been at this for 47 minutes, and you guys need to get some rest because you're preparing for week 4 coming up. So, as we sign out, I'm going to have you guys go again. Tell us who you are, and what team you're with. We already know what your team with, but it's just repetitive. You do the same thing at the beginning and at the end, and then a prediction of the highest score in Michigan by the end of the season by a single alliance. We're going to start with you, Michael, because you're already deep in thought.
So I'm Michael Chiarini. I am a senior, and I am the one of the mechanical sub team leaders for the drivetrain sub team specifically. And my prediction for the highest score, let's see. So I know there was one that was 222 in Michigan week 1. I want to say, hopefully, I think Michigan we could break. Hopefully, we could break 300. I think
Ooh.
that would be pretty cool to see.
Wonder if statistically it's possible. Are you talking about without penalty points?
I say without penalty points, without penalty points, hopefully 270.
Okay, okay, I gotcha. Because penalty points don't count. I mean, they
Mm,
count in at the event, but we're talking about high score. You don't want to.
Yeah.
Someone to go out there and say, "Hey, let's go set the high score just so we can have it," and you just play battle
mhm.
bots.
Yeah.
Allie, you're up next.
My name is Allie. I am the electrical lead on Team 573, and I'm also the operator. And I think that the high score is going to be 273.
Just a one up, Michael, like we're on Price is Right. Maddie, you're up next.
My name is Maddie. I'm a senior on Team 573. I am the drive coach and the systems lead. And I was gonna go 280. So I mean, I
All
think by
right.
the end of states, I think we can hit it.
States is gonna be wild. It's gonna be
Yeah, it's
wild.
gonna get to a point where there's nothing left to score but LG. So
I like states better than world. That's just me. Anyways, Lisa, you're last.
I'm Lisa Savage. I'm the head coach of 573. And my guess on high score, 295.
295 without penalty points, right?
Yes, I guess I haven't done the math in my head, but I would see the refield and 3 deep climbs and let me see
Six pieces in auto
how many
on the
Allies
top.
do I think on top? I don't know.
Six pieces in auto on the top.
yeah.
Full
We'll
full
see.
full reef on the top in auto.
Yeah,
Let's see it.
yeah.
Maybe with 5 cameras, you guys can do it.
Maybe.
That'd be cool. That'd
We
be
All
did
right.
get a
cool.
3-piece today, so
Oh,
Yes.
look at you.
Wow.
Nice. So that's possible.
Yes,
You get
for sure.
you get two other robots. I mean, come on,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
Well, we will wish you guys good luck at Troy. We'll be watching, and thank you for making yourself available.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
having
thank you
us.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.